Hi, my name is Martin Smith, and welcome to my world of Martinisms. That is to say, I'm getting into ether, which is iffy at best. There's a lot of different forms of ether back in the 1820s, or actually it started back in the days of the Greeks, before the Christian calendar was even started. And the basic concept is that we are moving through something, and that there's something that is stabilizing our speed and other aspects of space as the stars travel through them. So after that, in the 1820s, the minds of the day decided that the spin was found in the ether. So we knew that photons had spin. We knew that a lot of other aspects of the atomic structure had spin back then. So they decided that they were going to make it loops. That pretty much fell through, and eventually no one was able to come up with an idea. So if you don't know what it is, if the smartest people in the world don't know what something is, it doesn't exist. It's just a logical conclusion to come to. And a lot of physicists are of the belief that ether does not exist. I'm not a physicist, and I'm not one of the non-believers. There's a string theory which puts everything in tensors. That means that the things that make up the universe are strings that pull towards, strings or loops that pull everything towards itself. I'm not a big fan of that one. I don't get spin easily. I don't see spin coming about. And that was one of the issues in 1920, that things have to have spin in order to, in order to show how magnetism deals with the flow of electrons, and the flow of electrons flow around the straight bars of electromagnetism. It's a spin requirement. After that, there was a multi-universe theory, and the best way to think of that one, to gain spin out of that one, is to consider there to be membranes between the universes, so that we have a membrane for something to leave our universe. That would be either negative or positive, and as it shrunk down, the spin would increase. As it came out of another universe, the spin would be very fast coming out of that small membrane, and then expand, and the spin would slow down. And that's where we would be getting the spins from the electrons and protons. The other versions of multi-space is all mathematics, and in my opinion, that's mostly fiction. So I'm wanting to stay away from that. So I looked into quantum dots, and most people that are going with ether and quantum dot field are placing the quantum dots in solids. Most solids are in a lattice structure, so that they're stacked and they're tight. The vibrations are pretty much instant. We see the speed of light as being really, really fast to us. If you don't put any restraints on the speed and say it can go at any speed whatsoever, then it's a matter of finding some kind of wavefront that will give both a circular wavefront that spreads outwards and a wavefront that locks in place to a particular size. And the only one I can find on that is the smoke ring vortex. And for that to have spin, what starts it? So what's being compressed, if it has high turbulence in it, so it has huge and very fast spins, then as it's compressed and it creates a smoke ring that's toroidal, and the inside is going forward, and the outside is pushing everything back around it. If those smoke rings start at a spin, then what's happening is they go in, they speed up, they come out, they slow down, they go and they speed up. But as they're doing this, it's actually creating a rotational effect as it goes by. That would be the electromagnetic effect. And then it is also staying to a true size. So this is what I'm referring to as a vortex wave. And how are vortex waves made? This is one of the questions that I'm really thinking hard about. And one of the requirements of it is a question. And that is, how small is the smallest particle? What are the traits of a smallest particle? So if you have spin on something, then that spin has to be detected. It has to be transferable. Otherwise, the spin, even if it does have spin, it's not important. I mean, it has no practicality, and therefore, for all practical purposes, it has no spin. So anytime you have two objects interacting with each other, if they're moving around or any other thing, well, for them to have spin, they're moving around each other. Duh. That means you can interact, or other particles of that size can interact with those two particles. That is a spin. The argument that I'm trying to create is that zero spin requires only one particular point, one particular mass, one particular object can have zero spin. As soon as an object becomes multiple, one object is comprised of multiple items, then it has detectable spin. If it doesn't, then it has no spin. This is one of the aspects of quantum dot ether. Ideas, theories. Actually, there are a lot of theories in it, so I guess I have to use theory. But most of those theories take it back to either solid or semi-solid states. And I'm taking it to a gas state so that these dots have lots of space between them. And I'm going to be going over that on paper next. Okay, I'm looking at zero spin, quantum dot, breaking angle, and distance apart right now. So zero spin, this is an argument that I've been thinking about for a long time. And that is, how do you know if something's spinning, or how can anything be spinning if it is just one particle, if it is just one unit? What is the smallest unit that we can break anything down into? And the only thing I can come up with is to make an arbitrary unit. That means I made it up. It is a figment of my imagination until otherwise proven. Being a part of luminiferous ether, this being my welcome to Martinism's model of ether. And if you take two of these and let them spin around each other, then you have spin. Okay, breaking angle was an idea I had about the idea that ether could, that light could be moving at the same speed that ether is by these dots. If I look at the ether dots vibrating in a gaseous form, or a gaseous-like form, I should say, because ether is not really a gas. It is an item all to itself. So which means there's no friction in here. There's nothing to slow it down. These individual dots don't have spin to absorb energy, and if they don't absorb energy, then there's no friction. So, going up to breaking angle, this was an idea that I had. You notice that it's crossed out. This is a theory that I gave up, but if you wish to pursue it, feel free. It might be right. Mine might be wrong, the direction I'm going. There's no real way to tell. This is called real physics, where we're doing thought experiments and just just that. We're exploring. We're not learning facts. We're just exploring possibilities. And one of these is if the gas got compressed to a solid, and that solid, all these dots here, were going in a straight line, would the compression of these keep those dots moving at the speed of light? I later concluded that the ether quantum dots move about 800 times faster than the speed of light, and that it was a requirement in order to allow spin to propagate in front of a photon as well as behind a photon. So the spin on a photon propagates in a large area around that photon. And having it propagate in front of it is important later on other, put that on other videos. So an idea of distance between ether dots. If you look at nitrogen, if you go from a liquid to a gas, it's about 1 to 696. So this is the volume of it. So if you have 1 gallon of I put solid up there, sorry, it should be liquid nitrogen, you turn it to gas, you'll have 696 gallons of it. So if you were to take that and cube it and ask what's the actual distance that it increases by, it would be 8.86. So we're taking the cube root of that number, and we're saying that the diameter of the nitrogen atom itself, if we use that as the unit, then it would be 8.86 times that unit apart. So we'd have a nitrogen atom here, and we could measure that 8.6 atoms in between those two. And I did the same with oxygen and neon. So I'm going to wag, that's a wild ass guess, to say it's about 10 times. And this is just something to throw out there and do experiments with. And that's where I'm at on thinking of ether at the moment. There's a lot of things that, a lot of requirements that I have for what I need ether to be and what I need ether to do. And then I'm saving up stuff like this, putting it on the internet, and then looking at a bunch of other experiments, physics experiments, things that people have actually done, and comparing this model and asking, can this model work for all events? If the model can't describe how a photon is created, how a photon is absorbed, if a model can't describe what a graviton is, then the model pretty much fails. And this model hasn't proven any one of those two yet. In fact, there's no model out there that has. So, high hopes, and next video.